What is up, everyone? It is the Cash Show. We're talking NFL Week 16 cash games for you guys. Of course, we got split slates, right? We got Saturday, we got Sunday. Sunday still has a good amount of games since we have no bye weeks. And, of course, we have tons of injuries going on. The David Montgomery stuff will be the biggest thing probably to discuss on the slate. Bryce, I'll kick it over to you. How are things going over there?
I'm wonderful. I mean, this is my favorite time of year. You know, you have football pretty much every day. The only thing that kind of sucks is, like, for the NFL, like, I don't know, say 2 weeks from now or, like, next Sunday, like, it's like an 8-game slate because there are so many, like, island games. Like, I do like the island games, but I wish they would, like, put them on, like, 2 days instead of, like, spread them out over, like, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yeah, they definitely spread them out a ton. And, of course, we have Wednesday, we have the Christmas games, so not just NFL, right? NBA, yeah. So that'll be crazy for sure. I don't love how they have, like, the Chiefs, for instance. They're playing like 3 games. They're playing like I think 3 games in 10 days or something insane. Just a little ridiculous. But hey, I'm not going to complain about getting a lot of football. This slate is definitely an interesting one. A lot to discuss. Again, this time of year we get injuries. We start getting teams quitting completely. And you'll see in the next 2 weeks too. You'll get backup quarterbacks in. Like even this week, we don't have Jameis Winston in, right? We have Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I think is how you say his name, DTR. And like that's a weird aspect of like, yeah, like Winston probably should be playing, but they're just trying to see what they got with the other guy, right? You know, we all know Winston probably gives them a better chance at winning, but I kind of get the idea of let's give this guy a trial run and see how he is for the future. So, all right, let's dive in. Let's talk about it. Last week, Kyler Murray was the chalk, and you know, I thought that was a little questionable, but he wasn't great. I know Herbert was someone that was kind of chalky. He wasn't great. So overall, quarterback was kind of. And last week, we have a new quarterback starting for the Falcons going against the Giants, where Michael Penix at 4.5K. It's pretty hard to argue with him as like just a good play, right? Now the question is, do I need the salary relief? I don't know. I might not need their salary relief. Maybe you could make the case that I could play Anthony Richardson at 5.4K instead. Maybe you could make the case that this Lions defense is so banged up that a Caleb Williams could be interesting as a value, or a Bryce Young against an Arizona defense that I'm not scared of, or go back to Kyler Murray at 6.1K going up against the Carolina Panthers. You know, Carolina, they're a team we play just anyone against, basically. I mean, you could, as crazy as it sounds, make a case for an Aaron Rodgers against the Rams. So there's a lot of quarterbacks just that you could like kind of make cases for, but I think you can poke holes in them as well. And if you do want to play Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 4.8K for him against the Bengals, and hey, the Bengals aren't great either. So it does feel like it's a pretty easy spend down at quarterback week. If you are going to spend up, there is Joe Burrow at 7.5. You know, there's Josh Allen, 8.7, who's been an absolute monster. But I think it's a spend down week kind of in general, Bryce. What about you?
Yeah, I think the only argument to make against spending down would be on like FanDuel, where pricing is way softer. Like the last couple of weeks have been pretty much getting to Allen on FanDuel and then spending down on DraftKings. Kyler didn't really work out for me last week, but I had James Conner, so that did work out. Just kind of captured all their touchdowns there. Other than who's the random? Dortch like fumbled through the end zone, and it was like recovered by a lineman. So that was like the nut low play for the capture. But yeah, I think it's Penix or Richardson personally. You know, we have plays that we do want to spend up on in other positions, mainly the Bengals. You know, their offense is just so condensed right now. I could see DTR over Penix. Penix does not run, DTR does. But I think Penix is the safer of the two, if that makes sense. And then obviously AR at home against Tennessee does have rushing upside here. So I'm kind of expecting AR and Penix to be the chalk here, and rightfully so in cash.
Yeah, another thing to call it with Penix too, if like you kind of look at the way this Falcons offense has been designed. It's not designed to help Kirk Cousins play better football. Like playing that pistol more, I do think is good for someone like Penix. So helps obviously Bijan with the zone running. So I don't know. It seems like they've kind of like been married to this idea. All of the things that I've heard about Penix is, he's been great, and they actually have wanted to make this switch even sooner. But yeah, we'll have to see. Again, it's the Giants, really easy matchup, obviously, so it's hard to argue with that. It's in Atlanta too. That's a dome. We're playing almost on Christmas. Like, it just makes some sense to kind of eat the Penix chalk a little bit. And hey, like you said, Bryce, there are guys we want to spend on. One is Jahmyr Gibbs, right? Like I'm spending on Jahmyr Gibbs.
He's a stone lock. Monty is not going to play this week. I mean, we're doing the show now, but if they bring him back, it'll be for the playoffs. And even then, I think that's kind of a long shot. I mean, Gibbs is one of the best running back plays you'll see this season. Yeah, I think he's a stone lock.
I will call this out though. I do think they are going to use Craig Reynolds way more than people realize.
They will, but with Gibbs in cash, Gibbs is a stone lock. I think you could fade. I think you can fade him in tournaments. I mean, they already saw their number one running back go down. They don't want to be down two running backs. They pretty much have the 1 or the 2 seed locked up.
Yeah, so I just wanted to call that out. And he's just 7.5K. You play him, you're blocking with him. You call it a day. He is in the early games too, so it's not like you could pivot off him later if you wanted to. Chase Brown, 7.7K. I actually like Chase Brown too. I think you can make the case for a double spend up for both of those guys. There's other good ones you can get to, like a Chuba Hubbard. We know he's been a chalk option basically all season long, it seems like. Another guy that could see some ownership is Breece Hall, 6.1K against the Rams. And Jets-Rams is definitely a game that you look at and it has shootout potential for sure. So I don't think that's crazy. Any running back against the Carolina Panthers. So James Conner's got to be in the mix. He had 33 DK points, I believe, last week. So he's clearly not a bad play. And then, of course, you have all the other guys we mix and match, right? We always talk about a chain, Bijan Robinson, even Kyron Williams. So, hey, seems like a pretty good running back week. It's clear as day, though, we're going to play Gibbs. We talked about that. Are you playing who are you playing at RB2, Bryce? And then, are you playing 3 RBs, right? I guess that's an interesting question to ask as well this week.
I think the RB2 should be Brown or Connor, in my opinion. After Gibbs, those seem like the 2 best plays to me. After that, it gets a little murkier. I don't think I would prefer to get in an optimal world, you play Gibbs, Brown, Connor, but I'm not sure that we have enough value to do that. So, if you're dropping down, I would probably prefer to have 3 running backs, but it's not like an absolute must or anything. There are some good plays at other positions, but I do think it's a 3 RB week with cheap quarterbacks. So I think my favorite cheap option on FanDuel is definitely Patrick Taylor Jr. at 4.8. With Garendo out, I think that he sees the majority of the work there. He's not priced quite as friendly on DraftKings. He's 5'2". He doesn't really have the receiving upside. He's more in there to hopefully get some goal line touchdowns and whatnot. But yeah, I don't mind him on FanDuel. DraftKings, I'd prefer to get up to Tyrone Tracy at 5.5. I think is a decent play here. And then you have Aaron Jones type of dude at 6'4". I think he's a fine play against Seattle. Chuba, we already mentioned, obviously. I don't really think that we're going to be able to get up to Bijan. A-Chain is only 7.4K. That's a pretty friendly price on him. And then I think JT is a really good tournament play off Anthony Richardson chalk. I wouldn't play him in cash, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And honestly, running back, the one thing I will call out too, the one reason why we're probably going cheap at the quarterback position is because I don't know, there's not really value running backs this week. You know what I mean? Sure, you mentioned Tracy. I don't think that's bad.
Normally late in the season too, you get a lot of cheap running backs, and we had that a couple weeks ago with Garendo and Charbonnet.
Yeah,
you don't really have that this week right now. I mean, something could easily pop up between now and Sunday, but yeah, cheap is pretty thin.
of course. And we don't really have we don't have value at receiver either. Like, if we talk about the way the slate's been all season, it's been a mid-tier. Like, you kind of punted quarterback, you go mid-tier at running back and receiver. You kind of do whatever tight end tells you to do, based on the slate and how it's kind of constructed. If we have some premier values, then we might spend up a little bit more at tight end. So I don't know. It just seems like a week where, hey, you're going to just kind of spend some money up at your running backs for the most part, right? And then receiver, you probably are going to live in the mid-tier a lot of the time. There are a lot of mid-tier receivers to talk about. In that Atlanta game, Malik Neighbors is 6.1K, which that just looks really cheap with Drew Lock in there. Juwan Jennings and the Brandon Ayuk role, 5.9K. Obviously, something you have to like a little bit there. DJ Moore, Brian Thomas Jr., those are two guys I think that will definitely be key plays to look at here on this slate. So I'll definitely be interested in them. And all the Bears receivers are kind of interesting against the Lions. We know you can pass against this Lions team. With the Jets out of contention, listen, don't look now, but Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers are just having fun out there. You know what I mean? I'm not saying play him in cash. I'm just saying, this dude is probably going to just, crush the rest of the season at 7.1K just because Rodgers is I really don't give a shit. I'm playing football. I'm having fun. So he's going to throw to his guy, Devontae Adams, a bunch. At least that's something I'm thinking about the rest of the season. T. Higgins at 6'8". Of course, you can make a case for that. He does feel like he's always kind of more of a tournament type of play where he's very boom bust. But at 6'8", I do think he is someone that will pop. Jacoby Myers, another guy to call out. We've talked about all season long. They are playing the Jaguars. At 5.8K, if you look at a projection system, he'll just pop, right? You got to make a decision based on your own judgment. Who's the quarterback? What's the situation? Hey, it is the Jaguars. It's not the craziest spot, but I do think the Jaguars are playing some sneaky football on the defensive side. Another thing, don't look now, but Marvin Harrison Jr. is 5.4K playing against the Carolina Panthers. Deebo Samuel is 5.2K going up against the Miami Dolphins. We do have some guys that just have very, very odd price tags. And again, I've talked about a lot of these mid-tier receivers. I'll throw one more guy in, Jackson Smith and Jigba at 6K, but we should discuss Jamar Chase at 8.5, right? He is clearly, if you are going to spend up for a receiver, he is the guy. The question is, do we have the salary relief to make it happen? I think you can make another good case for Puka Nacua, but it's Jamar Chase. We know it is. It's going to be him the rest of the year. You just kind of play him and move on. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get up to him. There's a lot of good mid-tier receivers. I mentioned a ton of them. A lot of the time, the slate is won at the receiver position. But, Bryce, I know I rattled off a ton, so dive in and talk about the ones that you're kind of keying in on.
Well, there's a ton of options. So I think you pretty much tried to cover them all, which was good.
I didn't even say Drake London. Bryce, I didn't even say Drake London. That's another great option that, you could make a case for it, 6.4K. There's some I missed.
Yeah, I'm going to run down, just starting at the top. I mean, Chase is who you want to get to. Thing is, you can't really get to him even if you go cheap quarterback and cheap tight end, unless you have one more cheap play. And right now we don't have that. So it kind of becomes are you going to play Jamar Chase or Chase Brown type of deal to get your Cincy exposure? Because I think you should be playing at least one, and in an optimal world, playing both of them in cash. So that's kind of a decision point to make. And then after Chase, Nacua is obviously a great play at 8. I would just rather find the 500 to get to Chase at 8.5. After them, I think you're kind of living in this 5K range. I'd start with Brian Thomas Jr. at 6.3. Neighbors at 6.1 being my favorite plays in the 6K range here. And you get into the 5s. I think DJ Moore is a better play than Jacoby Myers straight up, and he's 100 cheaper. I'd rather play Juwan Jennings than Jacoby Myers as well at 5.8. You can play all three of them, but you also have some good plays in the 5Ks that aren't them. I think DJ Moore is my favorite overall play here at 5.7. You've seen Caleb really try to key in on him, and I think this is a pretty good matchup against the Lions here in terms of increasing their need to pass. And, you saw garbage time just pretty much all go to him in their last game. So I think DJ Moore is a good play. I think Keenan Allen is playable as well at 5.3. Juwan Jennings, really solid play at 5.9. DK Metcalf is 5'5". I think that's kind of wild. I can't remember the last time we saw him that cheap. Debo's 5'2". I think that's too cheap for him. I think those guys are all good plays. And then I think if I had to choose favorite cheap plays, it would probably be these Carolina receivers. David Moore's 3.6, Jalen Coker 4.2. If you did want to like punt and get up to someone else, I see Wan'Dale Robinson's kind of popping in projections. I think I would prefer the Carolina guys to him. But yeah, cheap receivers pretty thin this week, which is what makes it a little harder to get to chase.
Yeah, that's one of the issues. But to call this out, we're doing this on Friday. That could certainly change. And that's where
be prepared for like a Saturday night like Shefty news drop, like, oh, this guy's or like this team's just gonna like play all their backups and stuff like that.
Yeah, we did just get word Aiden O'Connell should be good to go for the Jacoby Myers stuff. But like one of the debates you might make is like T. Higgins and Jacoby Myers versus like, I don't know, Jamar Chase and like a cheap receiver, right? Like those are like small decisions that could be made for sure with 2v2s. So yeah, just calling that out because I think that's going to be something that you might want to monitor. And it's going to depend on how good that value is. Let's get to the tight end position. So for one, Trey McBride is 6.2K. Brock Bowers is 6.5. I think both those guys are really good plays. You get Bowers against Jacksonville. You get McBride against Carolina. Pretty much tight ends against Carolina could crush. Certainly a good spot. Also, I don't know if you saw this. Kyler Murray on Instagram was saying we're getting Trey McBride a touchdown soon. So it's coming. We'll see when he makes it happen, but he has talked about it. So we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to have the money for McBride or Brock Bowers. That's the real big debate that I'm going to have. And if I don't spend up, there's a mid-tier option or two that I think are interesting. I think Hawkinson against Seattle is certainly a really good spot. We've seen him kind of come along a little bit. Sam Darnold has been very consistent all throughout the season. Sam Laporta, you can make a case that his role has been nice. And without David Montgomery, you could make a case that his role might expand a little bit more at the goal line, right? Like they just might look to the tight end a little bit more on some of those short yardage plays. It's not perfect equation, but I'm just saying, hey, there's a little bit of usage to go around without Montgomery there. And they might just pass a little bit more. You just don't know. The other guy to call out, and I think he is probably my favorite option right now. It's probably strange for the Jaguars going against the Raiders. It's in a dome. He just seems like a value that we are going to kind of need. That could obviously change, but I think he's good. And then with Zach Ertz out, Ben Sinnott. He's a 2.8K guy that you can make the case is an interesting punt option on this slate. So, I mean, I presented a lot of ways to go, Bryce. Curious which routes you're looking to go.
Yeah, I mean, last week I played Strange over, God, what was the chalk? Smart was the chalk, and that worked out really well. You've seen Mac Jones just use him as kind of like a safety valve. They're sending Brian Thomas Jr. deep every play and just kind of, if that's not open, just checking down to him. 3.5, I think you kind of need the salary relief this week. I think he's a very strong play. Like, if we get value and we can spend on tight end, that's a luxury, and that's a luxury to have. Great. It's definitely McBride or Bowers. I would lean McBride over Bowers here, but obviously both are good plays. Mid-tier, I would prefer Hawkinson to Laporta, but I think they're both solid plays here. And then, God, if you wanted to get real weird, who would the absolute punt be? Like Ben Sinnott at 2.9 or at 2.8K, maybe Michael Mayer at 2.9, but I would much rather find the, 600 or 700 to get up to Strange.
Cool. The Ben Sinnott thing, I doubt I'll get there, but you never know, right? You never know what the 2v2s and 3v3s can look like. And I don't think there's like this like priority tight end right now that we're just like, hey, like we're playing him no matter what. Like last week, I felt like it was pretty confident. We were playing one of the cheap tight ends, and we're just kind of going with it and moving on. All right, defense, which not my favorite conversation. Last week, it was a spend up at defense week, which we talked about how, hey, like we're getting later in the year. Spend up at defenses are definitely not crazy. I mean, Bengals defense against DTR, a rookie, that makes a lot of sense. Again, the Bengals defense isn't great, but they do seem like they're like an opportunistic defense where like they get sacks, they get some turnovers here and there, but they get the ball pushed on them all game long. The Bills against New England looks like a good spend. Falcons against Drew Lock, I think you can make a strong case there as a spend. If we are trying to go cheap for like a value defense, I mean, the Jets against Stafford is probably not crazy just because he takes sacks. I guess the Colts against the Titans isn't crazy. Nothing really sticks out, though, at the moment.
I'd prefer not to spend down. I think the cheapest playable defense for me would be the Giants. I mean, he's still facing a quarterback making his first NFL start. I mean, you probably don't want to play Penix against your defense, but, say he throws a pick six. Like first play of the game, that's absolutely not it. So I think they're playable. I think the Raiders are playable. Like Antonio Pierce's teams are not going to quit. And, you just saw them put up like a decent like fantasy game against the Falcons. So they're not like a dead team as to where I wouldn't want to play them at 2-7. But yeah, in an optimal world, I'd like to get up to say the Bengals against DTR at 3-3. I think that's a pretty good spot.
Yeah, it does feel kind of weird to be like, hey, we're considering playing the Bengals defense in cash games, but like
they're like the worst defense.
Yeah, like they're one of the worst defenses in the league. But like again, like they're opportunistic defense. It's not bad when you have a team that's dropping back a lot. Like, listen, if Winston was in there, they would probably be a lock. DTR is a little bit of a different scenario. We'll see how much he actually throws and what happens in that scenario. But yeah, Bengals defense is in play, and we'll definitely be considering it. It's one of those weeks where it's like, hey, the quarterback's in play and the defense is in play.
It's kind of like whatever. I'm fine with whatever defense really fits in terms of getting up to a stud. Say the difference between Jacoby Myers and Deebo Samuel isn't that big to where you need the 600 to spend on a better defense. I'd probably spend on defense there, but say you need the 600 to get up to a Chase Brown at running back, James Conner, a stud play, then yeah.
For sure. I don't think I got too much else to say. I mean, wait for news. We did this at 2:30 p.m. on a Friday, so more news could be coming in. If you want that information, get into the Run Pure Sports Discord chat. Sign up using the code RPS15. Get you 15% off your first payment. Check out all the content. We got college football. We got a stretch of college football. So Bruce is doing tons of playbooks for that. I'm working on the 2-game NFL slate for tomorrow on that playbook right now. So if you want to check out the 2-game slate, be sure to get in on that. We'll have the Sunday playbook for you. And then, hey, it's not going to stop. Christmas, we'll be doing things. Wouldn't be shocked if we have a live show. We'll have everything for you guys. So be sure to check all of that out over at Run Pure Sports and subscribe to the channel to find out when we go live. But that's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks a lot for joining. For me, Mangone, and Bryce. See you guys later.